Good afternoon, Year 10, and welcome to your virtual lesson on Pearl Harbor. Follow the instructions carefully. Remember, you can pause at any time and rewind. If you need to, you can watch the video more than once. Welcome to the virtual lesson on Pearl Harbor. So what are we going to learn today? Where and what is Pearl Harbor? Why was it attacked? What happened? The consequences of the attack? And how is it remembered through memorials? Take a title in your book, The Attack on Pearl Harbor. Make sure you have the date and CW for classwork on the top line of your exercise book. Then copy the following introduction. Pearl Harbor is where the American naval fleet was docked in December 1941. War was raging in Europe, but America had not yet entered the conflict. Japan bombed the fleet, causing many deaths and much destruction. This caused America to declare war on Japan. This brought the USA into World War II. Copy this now. The picture on the left shows Pearl Harbor in October 1941. The two pictures on the right show Pearl Harbor after the attack on the 7th of December 1941. Note the difference. The huge plumes of smoke rising from the battleships. The bottom picture shows the sinking of the USS Arizona. You will have been given this map to stick into your books. Take the title, or the subheading if you have enough room, Where is Pearl Harbor? And then stick the map in. You can see from the smaller map in the top corner that Pearl Harbor is in Hawaii. And Hawaii is actually quite a distance from mainland the United States of America. You can see here, the bit that I have circled on the map is where the islands of Hawaii is. The larger mass here is the main part of America. So Hawaii is actually quite a way out into the Pacific Ocean. Take a highlighter and highlight the solid arrows on the map, like I am doing here. As you can see, these solid arrows indicate the first wave of attacks from Japanese bombers. These attacks came at 7:40 in the morning, and they caught the crews of the naval fleet by surprise. Take a second highlighter and highlight the dashed arrows. These arrows indicate the second wave of attacks that came at 8:50 in the morning. Don't forget to complete the key with the correct colour of highlighter. The map shows some of the destruction caused by the attacks. The USS Arizona capsized and trapped 415 crew. 29,000-ton USS Nevada was hit by 2 bombs. The USS Arizona was hit by one 760-pound bomb. You can see that there were US airfields here at Bellows Field, here at Hillram Field, one in Pearl Harbor itself, at Wheeler Field, at Ewa, Halewa, and Kaneho.
Pearl Harbor is now being attacked. This is an emergency communique from the Hawaiian Defense Headquarters. The roar of the planes you now hear is not a practice maneuver now. This is not a maneuver. We're being attacked. It's an air raid.
The Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor on December the 7th, 1941, here dramatically shot by Japanese film crews for propaganda purposes, not only crippled America's Pacific fleet, it changed the course of history. Just the day before the raid, President Roosevelt had personally appealed to Emperor Hirohito not to drag their two countries into war. But it was too late. Japan had formed a secret pact with Germany to attack the Allied forces in Europe and in the Far East. America at that stage was neutral, but generally sympathetic to the Allied cause. This was an attempt to destroy American military power in the Pacific before she could strike back. After this massive attack, Europe's war became America's, as Senator Connolly, chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, made abundantly plain.
With unbelievable treachery and craftiness, Japan has attacked our territory and murdered American citizens. Japan began this war in treachery. We shall end it in victory.
Within hours of the Pearl Harbor raid, American Army and Navy officers were called from their homes and weekend golf clubs to meet at the War Department to prepare to retaliate. President Roosevelt officially informed Congress that a state of war now existed between the United States and Japan. Within hours, Congress gave him the authority to prosecute the conflict all out. The legacy of the raid was enormous. 5 American battleships were sunk or damaged beyond repair. 200 aircraft were destroyed and more than 2,400 people killed. But more than that, Pearl Harbor led directly to what truly became the Second World War.
Long-term and short-term causes. A long-term cause is something that has been happening over an extended period of time, or something that happened a long time ago. A short-term cause is something that happened fairly close to the event that you are studying. Sort the following causes into short-term and long-term causes of the attack on Pearl Harbor. Draw a table like the one below into your book. You will need to use the whole page. Divide it into long-term and short-term causes. Decide whether each of these points is a long-term or short-term cause. Then write it into the appropriate side of the table. Number 1. In 1923, a treaty was signed which allowed Japan to build 3 ships for every 5 ships built by Britain and the USA. Number 2. Japan also invaded Manchuria in 1931. Number 3. In the 19th century, Japan had been a small, old-fashioned country which could not stand up to countries like the USA and Britain. Number 4. As a result of Japan's advances, in 1938, America imposed a moral embargo on Japan. This meant that American industries were not to sell aircraft or other engines of war to Japan. However, Japan continued to buy oil, petrol, and scrap iron from the USA. Number 5. The people of Japan were told America was a land of unemployment and gangsters. Such a country could not possibly defeat the patriotic and hard-working Japan. Number 5. Japanese admirals believed that a Japanese-American war would be fought at sea. To counter this, they decided to attack the American fleet in Pearl Harbor. It would take the Americans a year to rebuild. During this time, Japan could conquer territory and resources. Watch this clip from the film Pearl Harbor. It shows the attack that happened on the morning of the 7th of December 1941. Remember, this is from a modern film. It is not real footage of the attack in Pearl Harbor.
I go now to fulfill my mission and my destiny. I hope it is a destiny that will bring honor to our family. And if it requires my life, I will sacrifice it gladly to be a good servant of our nation.
Lieutenant, radar's picking up a large return, moving in from the northeast.
Hang on. Relax. This flight of B-17's coming in from the mainland.
Nothing to worry about. A heck of a lot of B-17s.
So what actually happened at Pearl Harbor on the 7th of December 1941? At 7:20 a.m., radar had only been in place for a month. The operators were still being trained and were inexperienced. The radar station picked up the Japanese planes, but they were mistaken for a group of friendly B-17 bombers. At 7:49 a.m., the first wave of Japanese planes reached Oahu. At 7:55 a.m., low-flying planes were spotted and a message was sent to all ships. Air raid on Pearl Harbor. This is not a drill. The attack began. Dive bombers struck the airfields. Most planes were destroyed. At 8:10 a.m., an armor-piercing bomb pierces the Arizona, setting off 450,000 kilograms of gunpowder. This created a huge fireball and killed 1,177 men. The blast caused the huge ship to jump 5 to 6 meters in the air. It sank in 9 minutes. At 8:45 a.m., the second wave of Japanese planes arrived and attacked the Navy Yard dry dock. By 10 a.m., the Japanese returned to their aircraft carriers. They only lost 29 planes. By 10:30 a.m., the hospitals were overwhelmed. The dying and the injured were laid out on lawns and in dining halls. The final toll was 2,390 people. On the 8th of December 1941, America declared war on Japan. After the war, a memorial was built on the wreck of the USS Arizona. You can see the outline of the ship below the water. You will have been given 3 worksheets. First, look at the boxes on your first worksheet. You must put these boxes into chronological order. Once you have done that by numbering it down the side of the page, turn to your second set of worksheets and you must put the correct event beside the correct picture in the spaces provided. Once you have done this, stick it into your book carefully. Do not fold it over, trim around the edges and stick it flat into your book. The consequences of the attack on Pearl Harbor. The attack was a big shock for Americans. There was widespread suspicion of Japanese people in America at the time. It brought America into World War II. The US Navy was restricted for a time, but it recovered quickly, especially since no aircraft carriers were docked on the 7th of December 1941. Copy these consequences into your notebook. This is a picture of the USS Arizona. As we heard previously, over 1,000 men were killed when it sank. It is said that when the hull overturned, people were still trapped inside. As the hull stayed above water for some time, the men inside could be heard knocking on the metal. As the hull slowly filled with water, the knocking slowly died out. They could not reach the men because they could not cut through the thick metal hull of the ship. The Arizona still lies in Pearl Harbor as a war grave and as a memorial to those who died. Today, this is what the Arizona looks like. You can see the outline of the ship below the water, and the men have built a memorial over the top so that people can walk across and view what is left of the great American battleship. This is what the memorial to the USS Arizona looks like from the side. At the end of the war, when the Japanese commanders surrendered, they did so on a ship. When that ship was decommissioned, it was brought back to America and permanently docked in Pearl Harbor. In this way, you can see where America entered the war with the attack on Pearl Harbor, and directly opposite the memorial to the USS Arizona is the place where the war ended with America victorious. Thanks for watching this Newbridge history video. We hope you learned something. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button and click the bell notification to know when we post new videos. There are also some other useful links on the description box below.